Hello everybody, this is Hammer Striker here. Today I've got an M&P from Smith & Wesson. This one's chambered 9mm, and this is the M2.0 Subcompact. This pretty much completes the M&P M2.0 lineup. So you've got this, which is the Subcompact. It'd be equivalent to, let's say, the Glock 26, the PPQ-SC, FNS 9C, the DB9, the Diamondback AM2, and other guns in that territory. They also have in this line, they've previously had a compact and a full size, and then they've got the shields, all with the M2.0, which has a much nicer trigger. They tend to come in the high threes, and Glocks tend to be in the mid to high fives, so they tend to come in a little bit less expensive. Right now, the MSRP on this is $569, and you're paying that. We paid $549 for this one, but prior to that, you could typically get anything in the M&P line between $380, $400, somewhere in that territory. And they're really well-made guns, and with the redesign of the trigger in the M2.0 series, they're actually a quite nice trigger. Let's talk about some of the features on this. It does have a 2-slot Picatinny rail, and that's something that some of its competitors don't have. You end up with doing like trigger guard type lasers. This has just got a regular rail. It has really small fish scale serrations for doing a press check. They're easy enough to get a hold of, but you've got to have strong hands and strong fingers, and they're going to bite in. You're going to feel them. Because they're so small, you actually have to squeeze quite a bit. But at the back of the thing, there's really nice serrations, same fish scale design, but you're not going to feel them bite into you. They're really easy to get a hold of, but they're big enough that you don't have to squeeze the death out of it to actually use them. One thing I'll show you, it's got a loaded chamber viewport right here. Well, I've got it turned up that way. It has ambidextrous slide stop slide release. And there is an option for a safety, which is ambidextrous if you get the safety. I tend to not desire safeties on this style gun, but there is a thumb safety variant. The thumb safety goes right here. You can see the little cutout in the frame where it would go. And you depending on circumstances, you may find quite a few of them with, quite a few without. Murphy's Law says whichever one you like, you'll find the other one in stock. To the best of my knowledge, you can remove the safety from one that comes with it, but I'm not aware of it being easy to add the safety to one that doesn't. But beyond that, it does give you that a little bit of flexibility. They have steel sights. They're a really bright, easy to see 3-dot arrangement. They are dovetailed with a set screw at the rear and a dovetail at the front, so that you can replace them with another design if you want. But the only reason I would replace these would be to go to night sights. And I wouldn't replace these for regular night sights. If I did replace them at all, it would be like the tritium fiber optic style, where you've got fiber at night or during the day, and then you've got bright night sights at night. But for regular day sights, these are actually very easy to pick up, very easy to see. They don't gray out at all, and there's enough of a gap, as you see me move it back and forth, there's enough of a gap to acquire the target and see the borders of the target you're after. The ergonomics on it are quite nice. It does come with 4 different palm swells, so you can see the curve right here. This whole thing comes off, and you can replace it with another one in different sizes. And some of the subcompacts out there don't offer that feature. The Glock does, but some of them don't offer any sort of backstrap configuration. This one actually goes all the way around and allows you to customize it. The texture looks and feels slightly like sandpaper, but it's muted. It's not abrasive like sandpaper, but it's got that kind of a sandpapery texture. It does stay in your hand well. It's even got the texture on the mag release here. But it's comfortable, but it does stay in your hand well, and it's not really particularly abrasive. The only thing I would say is up against your body, like along the side of your body, where the skin might be a little more sensitive, you may find that you'd want to make sure that the holster covers it. It might be a little unpleasant rubbing up against the bottom of your ribs all day, but it's not unpleasant to hold on to, and ergonomically it fits quite well. One of the magazines it comes with, both magazines are 12 round. Turn it the right way. They're steel mags, they're 12 round, and they are graded at each interval. Some of them you see every 2s, so this is 2s on this side, 2s on this side, but the combination of flipping it one way or the other, you can do single round counts. One thing I do notice about these is they don't have anti-tilt followers. so that when they're loading them, it has a tendency to want to nosedive the round. And by the way, that's not a crack. It came with that line painted on it right from the factory. it's solid all the way across. So these are a bit of a pain to load. The top round wants to nosedive when you try to use the rim of the next round to push it down. A lot of the manufacturers are doing anti-tilt followers, which kind of mitigate that. Other than that, the magazines, they work well. They're well constructed. They slide in easy. There's already one in there. They slide in easy and they pop out easy. And by the way, it kind of looks like the mag release is difficult to operate. It's not. I've been doing some construction. I got some damage on this hand that's still in the process of healing, so I don't like to push things up against it. So I'm operating it a little bit different to avoid pushing into that. And I've covered it up in case so nobody wants to see it. But overall, it really does work well. If you're going to grab the gun properly and you thumb that, it pops right out. The magazine drops free with no hindrance. It comes with one flush with no pinky extender, so your pinky's going to hang free. It also comes with one pinky extender that actually blends into the grip nicely, something that Walther and Springfield have really kind of mastered. Glock is capable of that, but their magazine just hangs down. There is no good quality, really integrated pinky extenders or sleeves for the Glock magazines. And speaking of compatibility, this is a 15 round magazine from a compact. And you might think, well, wait a second, they don't come with that sleeve. No, they don't, but this gun did. This gun came with two sleeves. This one here for the 15 round magazine from the compact, and this bigger one for the 17 round magazine from the full size. These were in the box with the gun. You only got the two, so you can extend to a total of one larger magazine and one 15 round magazine if you buy the magazine separate. The gun only came with two actual magazines, the flush and the pinky extender that I showed you. But with these sleeves, if you have or buy these larger magazines, now you've got your backup mags. Or I've got a full-size gun in my hand, or I've got a compact gun in my hand. And this is one of the things that a lot of people like, because on a range day, a little bit larger grip, a little more comfortable to hold. This goes in your pocket or inside the waistband, and you've got a backup mag. So it's really a well thought out design overall, and they've done a good job of giving you that level of flexibility. One thing I'll talk about while we're here before I take it apart and show the internals is the trigger. So it has a hinged trigger. This is part of the drop safety mechanism, and it is really well designed and smooth. You don't feel it as you press on it. The hinge just kind of folds in nice and smooth. You can see the arm up behind my finger there. If you'll see it on the finger, you can see that little arm going in. So it's going in really smooth and disengaging the drop safety. It's part of the inertial part of the drop safety. And then your take up, and then a nice crisp break. Nice reset, a little bit of take up to get back on the wall, and then again a nice crisp break, and it's got over travel stop here and then here, but this one really doesn't do a whole lot. It's going to hit this one first, and pretty much a very nice trigger with one exception. You can probably hear it. The take up is really gritty, and I'll show you when I get it apart why I think it does that. But once you get past the take up and you get on the brake, it is a nice, smooth, crisp wall. I really do like the trigger once you get through the take-up. That grit, you can feel it and you can hear it. And it does take away a little bit from the quality feel of the trigger. But from a functional standpoint, you're on the range. Of course, you got your hearing protection on and everybody around you is making all kinds of loud noises. You don't really feel that or hear that on the range. But when you're sitting here in a quiet room, you're going to hear that, and it's kind of disconcerting. But I don't consider it a showstopper for the gun at all. Disassembly on this is relatively easy. You simply lock it back. Now you've got two options. If you look down inside here, and I'll see if I can get in there and see it with a flashlight, you'll see the ejector, and then underneath it there's a little arm. It's kind of yellow. It's kind of right there at my fingernail. That's a sear disconnect, and you can push that down with a pick or a disassembly tool, and that will disengage the sear. If you do that, then you don't need to pull the trigger to take this gun apart. I typically don't. What I end up doing is just proceeding to the next step of flipping the lever down and then releasing the slide pull in the trigger and the slide comes right off. So you're going to verify clear on the gun anyway, so the trigger pull to me is less significant than it is to some people. I'll leave the slide laying right there for the moment, and I'll show you the internals. It's well designed. It's got nice solid front rails. They're fairly long front rails, and it's actually got pretty robust rear rails back here. You can see a little wear here where the finish is starting to wear. This is a new gun, so the finish is going to wear on the rails quickly, I think. But the rail itself, I think, is robust enough to hold up well. And on the other M&Ps that I've got that I've reviewed, that rail is holding up well. So I don't think this is a harbinger of imminent wear through, but you are going to lose some finish there. Generally, you keep that part oiled, so it really doesn't matter. But if you look at the trigger mechanism, ignore that thing that's moving. That's just the hinge for the trigger. But you'll see it kind of has multiple cantilevers to operate the arm. And that spring is riding right up along there. So I got the arm moving here, but I'm looking up here where this finger is, where that spring is. And that spring is riding up along it as it comes up and then cantilevers back to pivot to operate the trigger bar. And I think that's where the grit's coming from. Functionally, I don't think it makes a difference. But you notice it, you feel it, you hear it, and it just kind of puts you off just a little bit. Overall, it's well constructed, and it's not a whole lot different than any of the other striker guns that you might take apart. Very similar overall design, and everything in here appears to be well constructed. By the way, the internals of it, the metal parts of this gun, are all stainless steel. So here's the slide assembled. There's the drop safety piston, so this does have the full drop safety that you come accustomed to with this category of guns. Captive recoil spring, it's a single wafer spring. And by the way, that spring, being a single spring as opposed to a double like some of the competition, really doesn't seem to have affected the felt recoil. This does not appear to be a snappy gun. It actually feels quite nice. The feed ramp is what I like to call machine polished. So it is polished, but you can see the machining marks on it. So it's not a mirror polish, let's say, like the Walther PPQ. But it is nicely polished, and it feeds quite well. We were feeding this thing cellar and below 124 grain hollow points. Why were we feeding it that? It's because it's what we can get. Right now these things are eating what we can get, and that was what was available at one point. We were trying to score some 9mm, and historically, if I've had a problem with a gun, it's been with cellar and below ammo. So if it can eat that, it can eat any of the other stuff that you're going to get a hold of. The barrel's well constructed. It is conventional rifling. It's well done, well machined. Get some light in there. Nice distinct rifling. So I have no reason to believe that this won't do a very good job of stabilizing the round and providing quite a bit of potential accuracy. It's got a little bit of a hair of a crown, but it's mostly flat at the end. I had no real trouble shooting this gun well. It was relatively easy to shoot well. It was easy, of course, to see the sights. And then here is the slide, which is also stainless steel. And by the way, what you see up here isn't rust. It's, for whatever reason, they heavily painted the front end of this thing yellow, and that paint is coming off on there. But it's not rust, it's not corrosion, it's just yellow paint from that spring. I have a feeling that'll do that for a little while, a few cleanings, and that'll all be gone and it'll wear off the front of the spring. I'm not sure why they felt they had to paint the first quarter of the spring yellow, but I don't think it hurts anything either. This is all stainless steel, this componentry, so it should be corrosion resistant, hold up quite well, and it is well machined and well done. Smith & Wesson really has stepped up their game when it comes to their semi-automatics from some of their guns of the past, and they're actually quite nice guns. They're quite reliable. With the M2.0 trigger, they're quite nice to shoot. So overall, they've gone from a gun that I really had zero interest in to a gun that I would actually carry. Now, I tend to carry the Glock just because that's what I'm used to, but I would see no reason why I would feel underarmed or at risk carrying this. Of course, reassembling it's relatively easy. Line it up, lock it back, flip the lever up, release it, fire. Now, if I had chosen to use that disconnect, I would have two choices. One would be to reach up and push it back up, or just insert and remove a magazine, and that would flip it back up. If you use that little disconnect feature and you don't flip it back up in either of the two ways that I described, you'll have a dead trigger. And even though you cycle it, the trigger will be dead and you'll think that the gun is broken. It's not. You've just got the arm turned to actually actively disable the sear system. And that is, if you really don't like pulling the trigger during disassembly, that's an option available to you. One thing I didn't do earlier in the video is actually talk about the dimensions of it. I mean, obviously it's a subcompact, so it's smaller. It holds 12+1. Weighs about 25 ounces with the flush magazine in it. It's 6.6 inches long front to back. It's 4.5 inches tall, and it's 1.2 inches thick. So it's a slightly thicker than some of them, but 1.2 inches is reasonable. You're not going to have any problem concealing this. And like the Glock 26, this has got the potential to be a pocket gun. More likely you'd probably do inside the waistband, appendix, or one of those. With the shorter grip and the shorter slide and barrel assembly, it's a 3.6 inch barrel. You've got lots of options of where you hide this thing, and still yet have a competent, capable weapon with 12 rounds of capacity. Beats many of the competition in this size category. And then, of course, since you can have the larger mags for backup, you really have the ability to conceal a compact, or subcompact actually, but deploy a full size. So there's a lot of flexibility to this. Right now, guns of this nature that are usable for concealed carry or even home defense, that's another option with this, is you get one of the larger magazines, and now there's your nightstand gun. Put a laser or light on it, whichever you see fit, and you've got kind of the best of both worlds in one gun, which that might be a little bit important right now, since it's kind of hard to get a hold of guns. You go into a gun store and look around, and nothing would really tell you it's actually a gun store. It more looks like a empty air on the shelf store with a few scatterings of Derringer style pistols that they're there because nobody wants them. If you find one of these, with or without the safety, depending on your preference, and you score one of these, you're going to get a good choice. It's going to be easy to shoot well, it's going to be reliable, it can eat cellar and below, so it's probably going to work with any ammo you're going to get your hands on, and you're going to find that you can probably shoot it fairly well, fairly easily, and control it just as easily. So at that point, if you like our videos, please give us a thumbs up, share, subscribe, click that bell up there to be notified if you choose to. Check us out on Facebook, Twitter, Patreon, Instagram. We're kind of everywhere. And thank you.